I'm Erin Lawler-Patterson, the Goodness Chick. I'm a podcaster, motivational speaker, author, counselor, and proud part of the Mental Health News Radio Network. Join me on the journey of navigating the joys and pitfalls of life, addressing mental health, addiction, raising kids, and giving back. If it takes a village, then join me as one of those villagers. Villagers wanted. So a little over 6 months into our trek around the globe. Right now, we're situated in Dubai. We're actually here for a little bit more than a week. A little bit more than a week left of our trip here before we shoot over to Nepal, and kind of taking some time to think about what have I learned. And the more I thought about what have I learned in my 6+ months traveling around the globe with my husband and son, the more I realized my greatest instructor, my greatest teacher through all of this has really been my 3.5-year-old son, Jack. I have learned that when we allow kids, they can teach us. They can really teach us so many things when we take a step back and try to see the world and experiences through their eyes. Trying to gain a stronger sense of character and different areas of our life that we can kind of strengthen, I think can do dynamic things. And that's kind of what I want to focus on today. Lessons that Jack Patterson has taught me, the Goodness Chick. And so one of the first things before we left, and I had shared with people, on social media, in person, hey, we're hopping on a plane, we're going around the world. And a number of people said, are you bringing your son with you? Well, yes, we were bringing our son with you. And sometimes people would make faces like, what are you thinking? To those who are really excited for us. And to be honest with you, it's kind of a mix of emotions. There's been times I've had in my head, what was I thinking? To this has really been such an extraordinary time that I've been able to spend with Jack, as well as my husband, seeing things that people so many times we just often kind of dream about. And we did it, and we're doing it, and it has been spectacular, but at times really, really, really challenging. And so there's things that I have really learned about myself. I've really learned about areas that I really do believe can apply to all of us, that we can all gain something from. And the first thing, numero uno, is patience. I am not the most patient human in the world, like by far, not at all. Something I've been working on. But what I have learned that when I am impatient, when I am wired tightly, when I am intense about what my expectations are or whatever is going on in the circumstance I'm dealing with, it helps nobody. It helps nobody. It sets a tone that can often make people uncomfortable. And I think this is with a lot of us. We can be really super uber impatient because we have timelines, we have thoughts, we have expectations that aren't always the most realistic. And for those of you that are as parents, it's the best but toughest job in the world. But on top of that, our patience is tested every single day. I'll give you some examples. We we're flying over here from Jordan, and my son is trying to do headstands, between the seats, to getting really wiggly when we're in line waiting to get tickets. And we've been to some parts of the country or the world that culturally are super conservative in certain areas when it comes to, how kids act. And there's been times that my patience has been tested, bent, twisted in ways that I never thought possible. It's kind of like Gumby, little green Gumby, blip, 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 moving around. I have been stretched, baby. And I'll tell you that stretching has made me a better person. It's made me take a step back and say, what am I being so intense about? What am I being so on edge about? And yes, we need to be acting a certain way when in different situations, but there's sometimes when you're dealing with a kid, there's just things that can just go out of your control. Like things happen, life happens, things happen. And so I'm learning to be more patient. And I think when we strengthen our patience, it allows those around us to really, honestly, be more comfortable, because we set the tone a lot of times when we're real rigid, we're real impatient. It makes people around us uncomfortable. So I'm learning to be patient. It's really easy to say, just be patient. Just be patient. Whole different ballgame when it comes to putting into practice ourselves. And I found that a lot of times as a counselor where I'd be working with somebody and I'd say, I'd think to myself, wow, that was excellent advice. You have to do this to work on your physical health and doing this with your mental health. And I reflect and say like, yo, I'm not doing that for myself. It's very, very easy to throw advice to somebody. It's much more challenging to apply it to our own lives. And I think patience is a big one a lot of us can work on. Just my personal opinion with that. Another one, my second one for you is playtime is a need rather than a want. And I want you to hear me out on this because I don't care what age you are when you're listening to this. We all need playtime in life. And too often we can go and be constrained and miss out on really beautiful opportunities, experiences, and moments. And I'm going to give you an example. I think about, we've been traveling and you could say, well, you don't really have a schedule. We do have a schedule. We have different things we have planned. And sometimes I've learned that kind of needs to get kicked out the window, where it's learning how to be flexible and kind of going with the flow a little bit. Because we can have schedules and we can kind of get ourselves constantly going, and we get kind of placed in this little box. And I don't think that's really healthy. See, every one of us, I believe, and this is another one, everyone's wired differently. And what I've learned is I need to be more compassionate and in tune to what my son needs, that he doesn't want to always be going. He doesn't. He doesn't need to see this tower. He has no interest in seeing this museum. He doesn't care about, the sunset. And there's times that he will come with us because he doesn't have a choice. But in other times that we got to slow down a little bit. We got to slow down because that's part of his personality, his needs. That, my husband has the patience of a saint when it comes to sitting and playing with Jack. I struggle with that. I struggle with sitting still and playing cars and with trains and all that jazz for, longer than 4.7 minutes. He's very gifted at that. And for that, I'm extremely grateful. But we all need playtime. And one thing that really hit me big time was we spent some time in the Wadi Rum Desert in Jordan. If this could be something that is added to your bucket list, throw it on there. It is just a spectacular canvas of nature that is just takes your breath away. From the time that we hopped in the Jeep, we're in the back of the Jeep, and one of the guys, Muhammad, one of the Bedouins, drove us, literally through the desert. We're going. We're probably almost an hour into the desert from the closest village, if you want to call it a village. I mean, it was 125 homes kind of thing, but we were in the middle of the desert, baby. And so, and even then we had plans, which you have to, and that's fine. Things I wanted to see, we wanted to experience. And I remember walking out of our tent and seeing out of the corner of my eye, my son sitting down in just a mound of sand and playing trains. And I took a step back and was like, I was kind of, I don't know, it was just a beautiful moment. I sat down next to him. We made this little track. We were playing. And as I sat and kind of like just chilled, I was chilling. I was relaxed. And I allowed myself to just kind of look around. Like I'm on this mound of like red, beautiful, soft sand that's just kind of going right through my fingertips as I held it in the palm of my hand. And I'm looking at the rocks that he was kind of like using improv, toy, whatever he was doing with his cars and trains, little mountains. And I'm looking at these and I'm like, they're beautiful rocks. How old in the history. And the more I thought about it, I'm like, it's little beautiful moments like this where like we need taking time to enjoy what's around us, to chill out, not have an agenda. And I know that can be really hard sometimes in life. I know it can, but we need to find ways to infuse that in our life because it reminds us not only is it a beautiful thing to be alive, but it allows us to just enjoy life with people that we love and we care about. And I think that's really important. And sometimes we can miss out on that. I know I can, that I have this agenda. My personality is kind of go, go, go. I've got a lot of energy. My son has a lot of energy, but it's kind of, he needs to funnel it in a different way. He needs to play. And I think when we think about the people that we're closest to, right? Whether that's our spouses, whether kids, a partner, whoever, our best friends. Are we compassionate to what their wiring is? Because every single person is different with their wiring, what their needs are, how much downtime they need, how much downtime they don't need, to how they're kind of wired of what their goals are and what they need to do in terms of keeping busy and whatever, fill in the blanks. It's so easy to kind of run our lives on our watch with our expectations, how we look at life. And that's not always fair to the people that are closest to us. It's not. And that's something I have learned big time, being more compassionate. I'm still working on it. I really, like, when I wake up in the morning, it's not just thinking about what we need to do, what we have on our list, but like, what Jack's needs are. And I do think that being aware of other people's wiring there is so super duper important. Super duper important. Just putting it there. Next one I'm going to throw at you is humility. I have become so, when I tell you humility, Arama has just been a part of this trip, and especially, from the time I became a step parent to having Jack, I've really, 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 I do believe when it comes to just, I've eaten humble pie a whole lot, and that's okay. But I'm gonna kind of throw this at you where I've allowed to turn the table where I'm learning from it. Where things happen, especially as a parent, things happen that are out of control. We were in a lot, which is the southernmost part of Israel. And I was out with Jack, and I had this little grocery cart, right? And when I tell you, imagine the smallest, narrowest little aisle you could think of, that I'm like, who assembled this? Who put this together? Because they obviously, my shoulders could barely fit through. They're shimmying, they're doing whatever, they're skipping, jumping, whatever. So we're going through this little aisle, and to my left, I did not notice it till after the fact, there's this massive, crazy pyramid constructed thing that they did of ramen soup. I'm not kidding, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of little bowls of ramen noodles, right? In the little packaging. And so we're going by, and I don't really, Jack flails his arms up, hey, mommy, like this, up in here. And as he does it, he grazes the side of the ramen pyramid, and down, an explosion of probably 328 boxes of ramen noodles, everywhere. So we get out, we're trying to reconstruct it. And the guy was just pretty much get out of here. And I'm like, things happen. It wasn't intentional. But I was humbled. There's been so many times during this trip, what Jack is at, hey, do you have a baby in your stomach? Oh, wow. To, spilling things, to things happening, saying things that would be fine in the United States, but aren't fine in different areas that that we're in, because it's just the cultural differences, it's different. And with that, it's not about me changing my son, okay, because he is who he is, and it's about him being respectful, absolutely. But there's times kids do things that you just can't control, man. It happens, and so it's learning how. For me, it's been learning how to be humble, and I've learned so much from that. And it's really kind of taking away and removing all those titles, the materials, the labels, all those things as adults, they don't matter. We're all on the same level as, for those of you that are parents, we're all on the same level. And I think sometimes we're really tough on ourselves. Things are going to happen. And this kind of connects me with my next point. Thing that I've learned is about being judge-free. And that maintaining a judge-free zone is something I've really said for years and years, especially working with my high school kids, because, man, we can be tough on each other. Judge-free zone. And I've really found that I haven't always been honest with myself. As a parent, sometimes I judged other parents, in my head, where I'm especially before I had Jack, it's that the kid freaking out in the grocery aisle, or this, kid at this restaurant, and not thinking anything bad about anybody, but just like, oh wow, they're freaking out, and all of that, boom, has been chucked out the window. And really, what it's yo, we're all in this together. We're all in this together, dude. And things happen, and when we judge, it creates barriers and walls that are just really unnecessary, and it creates kind of I do believe, like, unneeded negativity, unnecessary hurt, that we cast judgment upon others. Because if you don't think people feel that judgment, then we're wrong. We're wrong, we're wrong, we're wrong. And we all have our good days, and we have days that are tough, super tough. Days that you feel like are just knocking the wind out of you. And when we pass judgment, not only is it obnoxious, it closes off possibilities of us learning and growing. Like, shuts us down big time. There's no learning, there's no growth. It's just all squelched out the window. And no one can win. There's no winning when we pass judgment on other people. Nobody. Boop, out the window, right? So that was a big one. And I think back, really, like, one of my favorite places, experiences, has really been going back to the Wadi Rum Desert. And one of the things I learned in such a beautiful way from Jack was watching his interaction, really over the past few months, but especially in Wadi Rum, with people that were not like him, right? And I love that. At no point has he, because we've been in some interesting places where, even I think back home, people would say, wow, what are they wearing? And that's different. And I love, 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 whether, we're on the beach or whether we're in the desert, how there's no hesitation. Like, why are you wearing that? Or why do you look that way? We're all the same. And what I think the commonality is for him, because in particular, Jack really connected with a young man. I'm going to say he was probably early 20s. His name was Muhammad, and he was actually like kind of our tour guide as we went through the Wadi Rum Desert. Really cool guy, spoke very little English, but that didn't matter, right? So I remember watching as we were kind of going up, we were scaling some little mountain areas, right? These rocks, and Muhammad was kind of running beside Jack, and Keith was next to me, and we're just kind of watching them. And Muhammad puts out his hand, and Jack puts his hand in Muhammad's hand, and they just kind of walk. They're walking, and Muhammad's helping him climb a little bit, up, the little rock area, the incline. And, later in the day, we're in the back of the pickup truck, right? And Muhammad's driving, and he's listening to this Bedouin music, and I'm holding Jack in the back of the pickup truck, and we're kind of swerving through the desert, and there's no other cars around us. And Jack starts dancing. He's putting his hands up, and I realized Muhammad could see him through the rearview mirror. And Muhammad opens the door and starts dancing, right? We're still driving. We're totally safe, so don't freak out. And I'm watching this, where really, because this is what the lesson I learned, kindness is contagious. Kindness is beautiful. And there are people who are beautiful people, we'll say physically, but are not kind and are not beautiful on the inside. And one of the things I have learned with my son that is so spectacular is that how he responds to other people's kindness, and how kindness is kind of the core of so much, and how no matter what you look like, what you wear, the color of your skin, where you're from, and whatever part of the globe, we're all the same. When there are some bad people, there are some ugly, dork, whatever people, that could be a whole nother episode, but there are also some beautiful people. And watching how he responded to the Bedouins was awesome. Truly one of the most hospitable, amazing people that I've ever met in my life. I was in Jordan a number of years ago through Wadi Rum, experiencing this with my son and my husband, kind of kicked it up a notch, where, sit down and have tea with us. And we would go into the tent, and there's, 20 people, will say, from all over the globe, Poland and Russia and South Africa, wherever, right? The UK, and all welcomed that coming out like we're here, and how Jack would run in, and when Jack shows up, everybody knows Jack's there. And instead of, just keeping him at a distance, it was including him in everything. And I think when we realize it's connecting because of kindness, it's connecting that kindness is such a beautiful thing, and not everybody's kind, and allowing our hearts to connect with kind people. And when we're kind to others, how it truly, 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 it's contagious. It really is. When I tell you the difference from, and Muhammad was very nice, but from the time that we met him to the time he had with Jack to when we left, it was like, it was really this like transformation, because I don't think everybody was always kind to him, to be very honest with you. And, we joked around, we had fun. We had, we'd sit under the overhang by the caves and have tea under the stars, and to think like Jack had the privilege of experiencing that. And I know he's not going to remember. I have a lot of people say, hey, he's not going to remember this, but he will through pictures. And to me, it's the life lessons that he will take from this, that not everybody's going to dress like you. Not everybody's going to look like you. And that's all right, man. Not everybody's going to be where you've been, or have the same, socioeconomic background or religion or whatever, but it's learning from each other. It's the power of kindness, because kindness, I believe with all my heart, is severely lacking in this world right now, and how it can be just a beautiful, 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 beautiful thing. Beautiful, beautiful thing. It is so beautiful, and I really, really, really got so much out of that, dude. I did. I can go back in 10 seconds and think about just my time there, and I'm so grateful for all the life lessons that came from it. Because and I do think we have opportunities throughout the course of our life. Are we going to learn from? Are we going to take something from this? Are we going to become better people? Or are we going to kind of close ourselves off and say no? Because we do that sometimes. I think we definitely do that sometimes. So my last one that actually my husband threw out to me, that I kind of laughed at, because I'm like, it's so true. If Jack is cranky, just add water. And it's so true. If he's fussy, if he's funky, it's like, yeah, let's take a shower. I'll put you in the bath, with some bubbles and essential oils. Or if we can, we're going in the pool, go surfing. I know for myself, I love watching how one of his ways to decompress is add water, right? It's really the same for me. I went out yesterday, have not been surfing in 6+ months. Whoa, that's insane. And my timeline of life, that's crazy. Just have not been able to. And I went out yesterday, right? It was like 6 to 7 feet here in Dubai, which is crazy. It's actually big, massive big for Dubai. I'm out with like 100, I'm not even exaggerating when I tell you probably 100 people are out, because it was just that off the charts. When he kicked my butt, I was very humbled, but that's okay. It was awesome. Arms are still sore, but I know for myself, just add water. That absolutely calms me down. It relaxes me. And for all of us, what is your just add water? What is it? What is it for you that decompresses you? And I really believe too often we kind of lose sight of that. I don't have time for that. I can't fit that into my schedule. You got to make time. Maybe yours is, I had to go for a run. I had to go to the gym. I need to draw. I need to write. Whatever it is, insert it in. And you got to start doing it. Because when we don't, and we're always kind of wired tightly, we're always going, right? I mean, think about it. We're already like almost halfway through the month of March. Woo! Backing that train up. January, not going to March yet. Come down. And time goes really, really, really quick. It goes really quick. This year, right, the next 11.5 months is going to go crazy quick. And it's not me wishing time away or pushing time. It's just a reality of it. I found seriously, as I've gotten older, the quicker time is going. And with that, we have one life. What are we doing? What's our just add water? What is it? And maybe that's, you have to, it's taking a bath every once in a while with essential oils and bath bubble and whatever, and candles. Or it's like, I just want to go for a walk with no cell phone, no one around me. Whatever it is, I want to do that yoga class, that kickboxing class. I want to get into writing again. We need to know ourselves. We need to know what it is that we require to chill out a little bit. Because if we're constantly going at 127 miles an hour, at some point you run out of steam. And we're not meant to be going that quick and that intensely. And that's something this trip has taught me immensely, that it's okay. Slow down, slow down. And from the time sitting watching the sunset, man, seriously, watching the sunset, sitting with Jack, playing cars, sipping Bedouin tea, right, which is fantastic, by the way, and just being in the moment. Wow, that was my just add water moment, man. It was my just add water moment. And, I could have been climbing whatever mountain or doing this or whatever the heck it was. But it was the now, it was the moment, it was catching that moment and holding on to it with all my heart. And that's what I have found, that we all need our just add water moments. What is it, dude? And I'm going to encourage you, before you rock out full-fledged weekend, whenever you're listening to this, taking some time, because what happens is, bloop, we listen to things. That's a good idea. I'm totally going to do that. That's, oh, wow, boom, our little bullet light bulb moments. And then that fades away. We go about our day and it goes off into the distance and it doesn't happen. So what I challenge you with is write it down. I know I'm a way, way visual person. When I write things down, it doesn't fade as quickly. I remind myself. I could put reminders on my phone, right? Or I put Post-it notes. I'm much more of a Post-it note person. Whatever works for you, to remind yourself, what do you need? What's that self-care time? And I do believe it does magical, wonderful things, and it kind of refuels our tank. What is it, dude? And if you don't know, work on figuring it out, man. That's what this year is about. Go take a yoga class. Go start running. You want to do pottery? You want to write? Whatever. You fill in the blank. And I think when we don't know what our just add water is, we're not in a good place. And it's finding those interests, finding that stoke, as I call it, and getting excited about life and realizing, connecting this here, that as we go through this next year, think about the people around you that you spend the most time with. That your heart is, man, they're you, your spouse, your kids, your siblings, whoever it is, best friend, partner. How are they wired? And it's really cool when we start learning and being more empathetic and compassionate to other people are wired, what their needs are, instead of just ours. How our eyes are really opened big time. They really are. We become more empathetic. We become more compassionate, and we look at the world a little bit differently. Jack has taught me this and many, many other things throughout the course of this trip. We've got a few months left. I'm excited. Really trying to take it day by day. I do have to say, it's going to be really nice to be rooted back home. We're going to end up back in Florida. We're going to end up in Florida. I haven't been there yet. But I want to enjoy the now, because I'm never going to get this again. Jack will be 4 in April. It's kind of crazy train how quick time goes. And I would say probably not going to ever have, I never say never, this time literally to go around the world again, the time that we've had. And I'm very, very grateful for it. And I really, when I think back to the person I was, 6+ months ago to who I am now, I'm different. Learned a lot. I'm growing. I'm still growing. I'm still trying to keep my eyes and my heart open and vulnerable to learning life lessons. And I hope, as I reflected a little bit today, that if these are areas that, you feel like maybe you can work on, rock on. If not, thanks for listening. It's all good. But there's always something, some area in our life that we can work on. And if we think that there isn't, beep, that's a little red flag, beep, 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 we all have stuff. Always there's something that we can be refining, always something that we can be growing and learning from, because that is what, one of the things life is about. If you have not already, I encourage you to hop on to goodnesschick.com, subscribe to my newsletter, try to kick out once a week. Sometimes it's once a month, depending on what's going on, just different forms of encouragement and insight for you, because that's what it's all about. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and I'm wishing you tremendous peace, love, and goodness, my friend. If you enjoyed today's show, I encourage you to visit goodnesschick.com and sign up for my newsletter, providing insights and encouragement just for you. Thanks for listening, my friends.